Dear children, hope you all are happy. Welcome back to our history lesson. We have started a new lesson in the last class where we studied about the different types of tribals in the Jharkhand area or in Bihar, etc. And also we discussed about the different types of occupation that they practiced. And also we know that they enjoyed a happiest or a satisfied life as they have full freedom to move through the different areas of forest nearby, and they collected whatever things needed for their daily life. And we discussed one important factor that everything were alright till the arrival of Britishers or any other type of outsiders to their life. When the outsiders entered into their locality, their total dissatisfactions were lost and different types of difficulties started to face. So today we are discussing that topic here. Whatever problems were there, how the daily life of tribals were disturbed by the outsiders, and what happened or how it ended in the at the end. So come to our point once again. That is, last day we have discussed that the most important tribals who were so common in that area, so Nagpur area, were Mundas, Santals, Oryans, etc. All of them had their own different types of cultural practices, their own religious practices, occupations, etc. But when the Britishers started to enter into their locality, Britishers believed that the forest is a natural resource that is to be considered as a property of the state or the nation. So, in order to protect that available forest area, Britishers prepared different types of rules and regulations on the daily life of people. So here we can discuss about the problems that suffered or faced by different sections of society. Firstly, we can talk about the leaders or chiefs of that tribals. That means in the last class we discussed that some group of people started settled life. That means they settled in a particular place and they continued their cultivation in that same piece of land. Some of them become richer and some others, and such richer persons become more powerful and they turned or they rised as chieftains of their locality. And that chieftains were considered as the leaders of their community, and they have full freedom to discuss the topics and also to solve the problems and also even to give punishment for those who are making any kind of problems in their area. Such a power was there for the chief. But when the Britishers came there, the total atmosphere, especially their social or political or economic life of that tribals were disturbed. That means Britishers considered everyone as equal without having no any leaders for a group of community. And they compelled the chieftain also to pay taxes to the Britishers. See, once they collected tax from the people, that is chief collected taxes from the people, they enjoyed different types of tributes or gift from the people, etc. But when Britishers came, all such positions once they enjoyed were lost, and they also came down as a simple citizen just like all others without having no any proper or without having no privileges. So their position in the society lost, and their authorities in the society also lost, and they were forced to pay tax also. So that was happening in the life of chief. And while we are talking about the shifting cultivators or June cultivators, we know that they were moving from one place to another and leaving one area for restoring its quality by its own, that is fallow land. But when Britishers entered into that particular locality, Britishers find it difficult to control a group of people, those are moving regularly from one place to another. And they stopped this shifting cultivation first or June cultivation first, and it considered as illegal or restrictions, so people also moving from one place to another also was restricted. So shifting cultivators were forced to settle in a particular area, and they had no any such an experience early to cultivate in a particular piece of land continuously. So as settled cultivation was not a practice of their daily life, they faced the shortage of grains. That means they were unable to give no any particular manure for their land. They were leaving that particular patch of land for restoring its quality by nature itself. When Britishers compelled them to settle down and also to stop their shifting cultivation, that cultivators were forced to cultivate the same piece of land continuously for many more years. So, without having any manure to add, the crops or the production from that locality were very less. That was not sufficient for them to meet their needs, and many of them started to leave that locality and considered it is not possible to live depending on this settled agriculture or settled cultivation, and they left that locality and started to find out some other different job. That means shifting cultivators lost their traditional job and were forced to vacate that place once they lived. That was the problem that our shifting cultivators faced. But when shifting cultivators were not ready to accept every of the demands of Britishers, some different types of revolts were there in different areas against British. So at last, in order to get the support of that shifting cultivators, or in order to avoid the problems, serious problems from their locality, Britishers allowed some group of people in different areas to continue their shifting cultivation. And one another important also that Britishers believed that if the movement of people from one area to another, that is through forest area, were restricted, they will leave the whole area. And Britishers faced one problem that if the local people from that area are leaving to somewhere else without leaving or without staying in that particular locality, Britishers will not get any labor whenever they require. That means the major important intention of Britishers to came to India or considering that forest as a resource is that they need to cut down that valuable timber from that forest area for different purposes, especially to earn their maximum profit by exporting that valuable timber from India to England, or using that hard valuable timber to make railway tracks or sleepers. So to do all this job, Britishers needed the support of local people from that community. So in order to please them again, some group of people were allowed to live in that forest area and were allowed to move here and there, especially herders and shifting cultivators with a restricted movement, not fully, that fully areas were not allowed for them. Some areas of that best wood items were considered as reserved forest for the British. That area was fully reserved for Britishers alone. Nobody can enter there with or without permission except British. So, some areas were left for common people or local people either to herd their animals or to graze their animals or to cultivate in different parts, mainly because the Britishers need the support of these local people for different types of labor. So, tribals had many problems here and there, and especially one another problem that our herders faced was that as grazing land was restricted, as the movement of people freely through that forest areas were also controlled, they were unable to find out a proper grazing land. As once they considered their animals or their cattle wealth as a most important profit or benefit for them, now they are considering these large number of cattle as a burden on their daily life, mainly because no any fodder is available for their animals, as no any areas were left for them. Very restricted areas are there for grazing land also. So continuous grazing on a patch of land makes that area also a wasteland. No any new grass will be started to sprout out because continuous grazing is going on. So many of the herders were forced to sell out their cattle and were forced to find out so many other odd job that they didn't have any experience early. So many such problems were going on when the Britishers came into their locality. Other than these Britishers, one another group of people also came to that locality to trouble or to disturb the life of people. They were traders or merchants or money lenders. Traders, merchants, money lenders and Britishers, all of them were considered as people coming here or to their locality to disturb the people or to make many more unhappy situations in their daily life. What was the problem with the merchants or the traders were that it was a time where the different types of cultivations or especially silk cultivation was going on, and Britishers find it very profitable also. So some of the areas of tribal localities were considered so important where the tribal people will be, or they had many ideas about the cultivation of cocoons, which can be turned into silk. So these cocoons were collected by the middlemen, that is traders or moneylenders, etc., from these laborers or from the tribal people with the least prices. And all these collected cocoons were sold in market with the highest prices. That means 4 or 5 times more what they gave to the laborers. So the tribal people were again started to exploit. So totally, either the Britishers or the moneylenders, in order to help the people, or the merchants, those who are coming here to collect all the cocoons or to sell it outside, were considered as people to disturb their life. That's why a term, by the beginning itself, our lesson itself uses that, a term called dikos were considered as every type of outsiders, those who are troubling people. It may be Britishers, or maybe traders, or maybe money lenders, or whoever it is, not a matter. Those who are troubling their life, or those who are interfering in the daily life of tribals, were considered as dikos. So every kind of dikos were a part of their present life, and they were started to face many type of difficulties. So tribals were not able to fight with the Britishers or moneylenders directly, but different types of revolts or riots were happened in different parts of India, especially in the tribal localities of Bihar, Chhattisgarh or Jharkhand, etc. Number of different types of tribals were there, and their revolt also were there against Britishers. So such a kind of revolt was practiced and planned by our leader of this chapter that we have started in the beginning. And he was Birsa Munda from Munda family. So Birsa Munda or Munda tribe also were one of the group of people who were totally disturbed by the Britishers, either in one way or in the another. So we need to discuss about what are different type of changes that introduced by Birsa and what was his golden vision, that we need to discuss now. Birsa was born in an extreme poor family of a tribal locality, and he born to Munda tribe. And his parents were so poor, that's why in order to get a life, in order to get a job, they were moving from place to place in search of a job. So such an extreme poor family he had, were no any importance that they given for education or for anything. Mainly they were waiting or trying to get a life or a livelihood for them. So anyhow, he also got a chance to get education in a convent school or in a missionary school nearby, where he heard about lots of changes that is going on around. And the missionary school, even though it was not supporting to the tribal cultural activities or their religious practices, Birsa heard that it is better to get education for his people and also to make that locality a little bit literate. So when Birsa was growing up, he became one of the important figure in that locality as he got a little bit education. So he practiced or he attended many of the meetings of that missionaries whenever he got time to enlighten himself. But later he hated that missionaries or the Hindu leaders, etc., because they were not at all respecting the religious practices or the cultural activities of the tribals. But whatever ideas that he got from that missionary school were one of the most important thing that changed his thoughts and his attitudes. So while he growing up or when he grown up, he believed that it's better to make changes not in the nation as a whole, but from his own tribe area or from his own society together. That's why he believed that when people are changing themselves, it will give a chance for them to bring back their glorious past. And by childhood itself, he heard about the different types of riots or revolts were done by his forefathers against Britishers in order to get their rights and freedom of life in the forest area to live freely. So while he grown up, that ideas also grown up along with his in his mind. So in order to bring that glorious past, Birsa started to introduce some reforms in his own society at first, and he advised his people to be free from liquor, to avoid every type of alcohol from their daily life. And he advised them to clean their surroundings and their home. And another advice that he gave to his people was that to send their children to school in order to make them literate. And another important point that he introduced or advised the people to avoid every type of witchcraft and superstitious belief. So all such good thoughts given by Birsa started to practice in their daily life in the tribal society, and they themselves started to think about some changes are happening in their own life. Children are getting educated, they are getting free from alcohol, and a little bit happiness is coming gradually to their own life. So gradually Birsa again believed that as their or his own children, his own people or society is getting a little bit better than early, it is time to give an important chance for them to fight against Britishers or all type of their outsiders or dikos. And he introduced people a word called need to avoid the Ravana and to bring a Birsa Raj. Avoiding Ravana means every type of outsiders, if it is Europeans or moneylenders, etc., it doesn't matter. Need to avoid the Ravana, that means all type of troubles or evil practices from their daily life. And to bring a Birsa Raj, where Birsa will be the leader of his area and a kind of administration need to bring about. So when Britishers also heard about these type of advices or plannings are going on in their locality, in 1895, they arrested Birsa because Birsa or his Munda tribe had different types of political motives also. That means sending the Britishers out of their country and need to avoid the money lenders from their locality and to bring a Raj or a country or a society or an administration under Birsa himself. So he was arrested by Britishers in 1895. But after 2 years, when he released in 1897, he travelled again through his areas and motivated the people or inspired the people to bring their glorious past by sending the coast out of their locality. But anyhow, in 1900, Birsa died of cholera. So, as the people lost their leader, the vision of golden age introduced by Birsa was not fully attained. But the people got a courage to come forward against all kind of injustice and evil practices. That give a motivation and also inspiration for the next generation to fight against Britishers or every type of evil activities or the difficulties that is introducing into their locality by outsiders, and to avoid every type of exploiting the tribal people and their cultural practices. So every time we are studying about different type of national leaders and their role in making different changes in a society, here we studied about a person from tribal area, that is Birsa Munda from Munda tribe, also had his own role to improve the conditions of his own society by implementing different type of reforms. And even though all what he hoped to bring into his society were not fully fulfilled, he was able to make some changes through his advices. That's why we can conclude our lesson by saying that whatever things are going on is not a matter, and who is the leader behind all this is not a matter. Changes will happen and fight against injustice also will happen. Here it was under a leader from Munda tribe. Throughout the world, different types of such fight against injustice is going on still now. So let us hope for a best future. Thank you. Have a nice day.